Salute Mets fans. What's good, everybody? Coming through to rock the spot for a few minutes. I appreciate everyone that's watching on X, everyone that's watching on YouTube, the New York Mets Lounge. Brand new channel, just getting started. Maybe only have 3 or 4 real live streams up, but we're going to change that. Try to do this more frequently. Try to talk that talk with y'all. Real Mets talk. Got a few things to one thing to talk about specifically, but it'll involve a couple of Mets players, right? The one thing I think is out there in Mets universe, and or that's out there in Mets universe, and that but it's not talked about, is which Mets have the most to prove in 2026. And there are a lot of Mets that have something to prove in 2026. There are a lot of Mets that have something to prove in 2026. I want to talk to you about a few of them, though, right? One of the folks that I feel has something to prove in 2026, and it's probably the most important thing, right? It's probably the most important thing, and that is Carlos Mendoza, right? Of anyone that has anything to prove in 2026 in terms of Mets, Carlos Mendoza, to me, has to prove that he has what it takes to be a World Series winning manager backed by a top 10 talented roster in MLB and an owner that is willing to spend to win a championship. Right? So what does that mean exactly, right? In the grand scheme of things, what are we saying, right? What I'm saying to you is I believe Carlos Mendoza has everything that it takes to win a World Series, but not once, multiple times. He's got an owner willing to spend, has a stacked farm system, right? He's got talent on the roster, but how does he use this talent in a way that wins the NL East, that keeps guys healthy, that knocks off the perennial favorite and National League giant Los Angeles Dodgers? You have to do that in an innovative way. You have to understand your personnel, for one. And it's not just about managing the specific game, but having a plan. What's your strategy? Right? When I watched the 2025 Mets, I didn't quite know what the strategy was. I didn't know what the identity of the team was. Are you a mashing team? Are you a base running team? Are you a pitching and defense team? Are you a clutch moments team? Right? Do you play it close to the vest? What type of team are you? Now, the year before Juan Soto arrives, when you have a mix in right field of Marte and a bunch of other guys, you're mixing and matching in right field. You're mixing and matching in center field. I think you had an identity. Your identity was take everything, right? I think the identity of the Mets in 2024 was take everything. Everything, every mistake that the other team made, you take advantage of it. Whether it's stealing bases, whether it's large rallies, big rallies, during the season, you mixed in kids, and it got you to a place where you could beat bad teams, right? Beat good teams, and then in clutch moments, go toe to toe with the championship contenders, right? That's who we were in 2024, right? In 2025, however, the pitching regressed. Clutch moment, runners, your clutch at bats with runners in scoring position, that wasn't quite what we thought it should be. Even though we probably had better bats in theory, when you add a Juan Soto to your lineup, when Beatty is a year older, Alvarez is a year older, Pete Alonso. So you add these things, and it puts you in a place where, regardless of whoever the pitcher is or the team is, you felt like you actually had a shot to win. Regardless who the team was, you actually felt like you had a shot to win. But who are you in 2026, though? And in 2025, you felt like a lineup that has Pete Alonso, Juan Soto, and Francisco Lindor gives you a shot to beat any team. I still didn't know what the identity was. Did you steal a bunch of bases? You still felt like you had a shot to win. Who are the Mets in 2026, though? The rumblings are the Mets want to shore up their defense. And I understand the cascade effect with Mendoza. I understand the cascade effect with Mendoza. I understand it's one of those things where, let me add Mendoza's name back up here. I understand how things go together. I understand how you shore up your defense. It helps your starting pitching, take pressure off the bullpen, and then your closer comes in and closes games. I understand that. How's that didn't work how's that gonna work though? Because the Mets don't have elite defenders around the field. The Mets have bats. So with Marcus Semien, you bring in a veteran. He's going to be a gold glove type of second baseman, along with Lindor. You're rock solid up the middle. But what about center? Right? What about behind the plate? What about in your corners? Right? First base looks like it's going to be Pete Alonso all over again, except by committee. Juan Soto in right field looks like Juan Soto in right field. You already know. Just like the background that you see right here. That's what you're going to get in right field, right? What about left field? What's left field going to look like? I'm not for sure what the identity of the team is. And to be honest with you, I'm not for sure what Carlos Mendoza, what his plan is. What's the plan? David Stearns, Carlos Mendoza, what's the plan? Can Mendoza get us there? I'm not for sure if Mendoza has been pressing the right buttons. And I like Mendoza, but does he press the right buttons? He had one great year. The year before Soto, you add Juan Soto, and now, we regress. And it can't be, the answer to that question cannot be, well, we lost Luis Severino. Like the answer to that question can't be you lost Luis Severino in free agency. That can't be what it is, right? It can't just be, you lost Kodai Senga due to injury. We know Kodai Senga gets injured. This is nothing new. This is nothing new. So it can't just be, you know what? We lost Luis Severino, and the pitching hadn't been the same. That cannot be our answer. So I think Carlos Mendoza has something to prove, and to be honest with you, I don't know how long of a leash I would give Carlos Mendoza. The only thing that accompanies that thought is even if Mendoza is on a slightly warm seat, not a hot seat, but say if the pressure is on Carlos Mendoza, if he doesn't press the right buttons, then who do you replace him with? And then it'll give you the impression that this owner is replacing managers every 2 years. And so do we want that to be a thing? So the Carlos Mendoza thing is a very, very delicate thing. But is he capable of pressing the right buttons? Carlos Mendoza has something to prove. Another player with something to prove, and it's disappointing for me to say, right? My guy Francisco Alvarez has something to prove, right? Can Francisco Alvarez lead a pitching staff? Can Francisco Alvarez stay healthy? Can Francisco Alvarez hit consistently? Can he juggle all three of those things and be an everyday type player? Francisco Alvarez on the surface has all-star potential, right? You can look at him, you just walk around, Alvarez has all-star potential, right? He can throw, he can catch, he can run, he can hit for power. But can he do all these things consistently? It's something to consider. Fully realized potential, Francisco Alvarez has the potential to be the best catcher in Major League Baseball. Full potential realized, Alvarez has the potential to be the best catcher in Major League Baseball. You heard it here. Adequate enough arm to check base runners, light tower power, personality type that seems to go well with lineups. And I'm basing that off of interviews I've seen. I don't have definitive proof. All I can go by is what fans like myself can go by, like the interviews and such, and what people say about Alvarez. But entering 2026, he's not a young prospect anymore. He's a young veteran. He's a leader. But can he parlay all those elements we just discussed into being a great everyday leader, bat in the lineup, manager of a pitching staff? Can he be that guy? He's got to prove that in 2026. The next player goes without saying. David Peterson. David Peterson has a ton to prove. David Peterson is a player that looks like a placeholder. David Peterson legitimately looks like the pitcher that is holding down the spot for Christian Scott. Basically, David Peterson looks like the guy that's gonna be in this place, in this spot in the rotation until Christian Scott is healthy. Right? That's what he looks like right now. Right? But is there more untapped potential in David Peterson? The thing is, why he has something to prove is pitchers will leave the New York Mets organization and look different, i.e., Zach Wheeler, Jacob deGrom, Seth Lugo. Now, do you allow David Peterson to pitch this 1 year and leave? Do you consider him a sixth starter? Do you consider him an adequate MLB arm? In the right situation, he can be your fifth starter. Is David Peterson your fourth starter? And now, mind you, fourth and fifth starters that eat innings are valuable. But at the same time, it's not what the Mets expect, because they expect him to go out and be the best version of himself. But if you're David Peterson in the last year of your deal, the Mets are looking everywhere for starting pitching, including free agency. In the farm system, they're looking everywhere for your replacement, and you are a starting pitcher for the Mets. You have something to prove. You have to fend off these guys coming up from AAA, and you have to fend off them going out and signing a Chris Bassett type player. Aren't you the same guy, basically? Chris Bassett, David Peterson, aren't you the same guy almost? If you're David Peterson, you legitimately, you have something to prove. You're in the driver's seat for your own Mets career, right? But how do you parlay that into a successful personal season and a successful Mets season? Mark Vientos, swaggy of anyone on the roster, of anyone on this roster, in my opinion, if this guy clicks, other pieces fall into place. If this one player clicks, the versatility that you have throughout the rest of your roster falls right into place. Mark Vientos, if we can get Mark Vientos in that batting 250, and now I'm setting the bar super low, everyone. If Mark Vientos can play a decent first base, bat about 250, get you about 20 home runs with about 500, 550, 600 at bats, I think it makes David Stern's decisions and moves simpler, right? Because here's the thing, Mark Vientos is not a bench player. We found that out in 2025. Mark Vientos is an everyday player. How we know that is in 2024, he was an everyday player. You saw his production. In 2025, we kind of used him sparingly, bring him off the bench, substitution, whatever this thing is, and you saw him have a down season. And you saw Mark Vientos have a down season, right? At the same time, Mark Vientos basically had one great season, and he's been in the Mets organization forever. His entire career. I think Vientos is 25, 26 years old, somewhere in that neighborhood. He's somewhere in that neighborhood, 25, 26 years old. He had one breakout season, one historic playoff run. And so you know the moments aren't too big for him. You know the talent level of MLB is not overwhelming for him. It's about him getting into a groove and being consistent. Now, does changing batting coaches help Vientos? It's got to. It's got to. Salute to everyone watching us on X. Salute to everyone watching us on YouTube. Man, appreciate y'all being here. Mark Vientos, to me, if he proves he can be an everyday first baseman DH, right? 500, 550 at bats, 600 at bats. If he can earn those, I think it solves a bunch of things in our lineup. And I'm going to speak about one other person that has something to prove just really quickly. And well, I'll speak to both at the same time. Right. I'll speak to both at the same time, and I'll add both names on. Kodai Singer, Sean Manaea. Kodai Singer, Sean Manaea. If we get the 2024 versions of both of these players, the Mets are a playoff team, right? If we get the 2024 version of both these players and they stay healthy, the Mets are a playoff team. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. If both of these players stay healthy, stay consistent, the Mets are a 2026 playoff team. It's as simple as that, everybody. It's as simple as that. But can Kodai Senga stay healthy? Can Sean Manaea stay healthy and consistent? One of the things about this thing, like with so many people having things to prove in 2026, all the players, people that I mentioned, have something to prove in 2026. Steve Cohen has nothing to prove in 2026. Steve Cohen has proven that he'll spend money. Steve Cohen has proven he'll use resources, right? This all comes down to, can we have certain players prove that they are not only Major League Baseball players, but that they can do it in New York City with a Mets uniform on? That's all I have, everybody. Just coming through, rocking the spot, just coming through to hang out with my fellow Mets fans. So more live stream and conversations soon come. Want to thank everybody for coming out. Thank you to everyone that watched on YouTube, for everybody that watched us on X. Thank you. And we'll holler at y'all later. Let's go Mets.